We got action, Jack. Hour 2 of the program, ladies and gentlemen. Tobin and Leroy here with you, 560 WQAM. Let us get to our headlines, which are plenty. Brought to you by Doral Volkswagen. At Doral Volkswagen, choose from over 300 new Volkswagen models in stock, like the Tiguan, the Taos, and the Atlas. And remember, when it comes to Volkswagen, the great deals are at Doral Volkswagen. Okay, just to catch everybody up, this happened during last segment. Jalen Ramsey traded to the Steelers for Minkah Fitzpatrick. Minkah Fitzpatrick is back with the Miami Dolphins. Now, Adam Schefter's weird trade tweet makes sense because he said it ended it with and another trade. But then where was the next trade? We got it. Jonnu Smith has also been traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers in exchange for a late round draft pick.
And he gets triple the amount he made.
And he's getting a bump in pay. He's going to make $12 million.
I'm happy for him, but we just gave him up. We're just like, here, take this too.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. That's what happened.
Love giving away one of our weapons with no replacement.
Well, I mean, we got Julian Hill.
Oh, you're right.
Oh,
We got Farrell Brown.
Oh, yes. Oh.
We got Tanner Connor. Intangibles.
here's what it boils down to. They didn't want to give him $12 million.
Nope.
That's it.
Cool, but like, what was he gonna do? Sit out all season?
Yeah.
You can
Sit out the first 10 games.
There's no fee or no penalty or nothing like that.
Sure.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, if this is all about money after a certain while, you kind of got to play that game, unfortunately, chicken, where you're just kind of like, who's going to flinch first? And we're just like, nah, you can go. I don't like it. I do like the 1-for-1 because Minkah, still pretty young, pretty talented. We needed a safety. We were going to lose Jalen anyway. The Jonnu thing is like,
yeah, I'm a little worried about the Jonnu.
What are we doing? What are we doing here?
Yeah, but like, again, this was my whole thing with the Jonnu, and he was great last year. Don't get me wrong. He was great. It's not like the Dolphins don't have two of the best receivers in the league. Like, and they both had down years last year.
True.
And with Tua Tagovailoa, obviously it's always a caveat of him being healthy, but like, you got to get those guys back on track and getting the football more. Like, I understand the Dolphins paying those guys as much as they did, and also being like, you know what? We also can't pay our tight end this for him having a career year, and we're just we think we'll be okay there. I can honestly understand the logic of that. So yeah, it sucks. He was awesome. Pause up. Like, I love Jonnu Smith. What a great year it was. What a cool story it was. But the Dolphins did fix a monster. Like they have a big problem, obviously, like still not knowing who can take over a corner. But I also was not sure about those safeties and having Minkah Fitzpatrick on this. Like,
They can move, and the thing is, they can move Minkah around.
Yeah, it's not a foolproof fix, but I do think they came out of it okay.
So me and you are going to differ on this.
Okay.
Because I think Jonnu Smith was comfort food for Tua. And what teams were doing is they were dropping so far deep and daring you to try to go over their heads, you couldn't get there. Because the whole deal is if you drop enough men deep enough, then our rush will get to you before you can wait for them to get past it. So that's what everybody talk about cover 4. But cover 4 is basically 4 deep, 4 across. The back end of the defense. So what Jonnu Smith did was kind of at times during the season get these guys to step up a little bit. And that created space behind them. Because if one of those guys got to come up cover the tight end, there's a gap back there. Without that, you have basically told teams it's okay to play that cover 4.
But
it's
didn't they-
okay to play that deep too. And you're making it sound like, oh, no bigs, you got the two receivers. It all works hand in hand. And I
No.
think people forget that.
I get it, but it is a salary cap sport, and both of those guys had down years last year, and you do need ideally for the Dolphins, let's just say Jonnu Smith came back this year, the Dolphins were gonna try and feed the ball more to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle anyway.
Okay,
Like,
you in a perfect world, yes, you want to get the guys the ball to the guys that you're paying all that money to. Okay. But in the realistic world, by getting rid of Jonnu Smith, you think that made it easier or more difficult to do what we're talking about?
I don't know, because I'm assuming.
I'm telling you, it made it more difficult because now you don't have to worry about.
But how can you? But just by counter,
I'm tell you how, just based on defenses.
I understand, but how can we say that when they had him last year and they both had their worst seasons as Dolphins?
Right, for whatever reason, it could be defensively, it could be they just had off years. I'm not disputing that, right? Like it sometimes when guys have off years, we want answers as to why it happened. Okay, you need a definitive answer. I can't give you one, but what I would say is this: if you take away what was good last year, you're making it more difficult for defenses to come out of that defense that kind of gave you problems because you have nobody underneath.
Yeah, I get it, but they're not gonna pay him. It's one of those things. They already made the choice of we took this guy, we got him at a bargain last year, and he basically in a lot of ways, Jonnu Smith is a nice player, but he's never been an elite tight end. And I love the guy. He's never been an elite tight end. You basically did Raheem Mostert with him at the tight end position, where he comes here, he breaks every tight end record the Dolphins have had, but before that was pretty much a journeyman. And I just think in the Dolphins' mind, maybe they think, hey, we can have one of our young guys step up and do things like that. Okay, but that's what they're in any sport, Leroy. We would have thought that last year. It's like, oh, he's not going to come here and break the records. Nobody thought that. We thought he was a nice piece.
What we did know though is this: you're just looking at the catches. Look at the other things he did and how they got him the ball. With quick passes, with tosses, with stuff like that. He's a very versatile player. And what I say with that is when you add those things to the weapons you have, it makes you strong. It makes Tyreek more of a weapon. It makes Waddle more of a weapon. So while you're sitting here saying, oh, we can just have one of our young guys do it. No, you can't.
But they weren't more of a weapon last year. It's a nice thing to say.
I can't figure out how to explain this to you. I can't because I'm looking at it from the defensive perspective and how they defended Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, which created the space for Jonnu to be able to do all those things. Who's very athletic, way more athletic than any of the other guys you have in that room.
But they're better numbers. They had better numbers with Durham Smythe as their tight end.
But again,
I don't know. So what are they opening up?
You're not leaving room for the teams adjusting to how they played Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. Okay, let me show you how defense works. Okay, if you have speed guys on the outside. All right. Now, the first year when Tyreek almost had 2,000, right?
That was the second year.
Second year when he almost had 2,000 yards. Basically, they tried to play cover two, right? But what would happen is you'd run Waddle up the middle. The two safeties would pay attention to Waddle, run those deep crossing routes, which was amazing, right? And then Tyreek would beat the hell out of that corner and deuces, we out. Okay? You could switch it up. You could go Waddle down the sideline, Tyreek cross, catch the ball through the middle, space, 88 out the gate. Right? Then they started playing cover four, which is instead of putting those corners close to the line of scrimmage, right? They drop them way back and dare you to throw it underneath, and then they come and make tackles, right? So they're not allowing you to get the ball over their heads. Now, where that becomes even more effective, playing all those guys deep, is when you have an offensive line who's not protecting the quarterback. So now everything gets sped up. You don't have time to get deep. And so everything ended up being shorter because now the coach is like, we're not protecting Tua. They're playing way deep. We got to come up with shorter passes to be effective. Okay? So that's how that played out without Jonnu. Now you bring in Jonnu. Granted, Waddle and Tyreek didn't have the best of years. But when a defense says, we're going to defend Waddle, we're going to defend Tyreek, we're going to pick up on all their routes, we're going to drop way back, we're going to do all these things, that left a whole football field of Jonnu Smith against a linebacker. So what ends up happening in a game, you take advantage of who has, same thing in basketball. Who has the mismatch? Let's take advantage of that.
Yeah, but you don't think that's going to, I guess in this
Nobody
case,
has the athletic ability as Jonnu to be able to get open like that. That's
okay,
my point.
That's fine, but they're going to get back. Like Leroy, there's no way they're not going to go into this season and go with, first of all, like we could say the Dolphins relented a little bit on letting defenses take their bread and butter away from them too much last year. Like they've admitted as much. The quarterback has admitted as much. So they're gonna tilt back to trying and take more shots this year.
But here's what
it's still Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Dude.
But Tobin, you have to understand, part of those adjustments had nothing to do with Tyreek and Waddle, but more to do with the time you had to throw the football.
Yeah,
they had no time to run those deep routes.
Hopefully, and obviously, you hope the line is better this year.
Okay, but that's a whole. So if it's not, then those things are moot points anyway. By getting down the field,
I understand. Yeah,
so
it's gonna be
who's gonna be that mid? Who's gonna be that guy to catch the ball in the middle of the field? You think you're just gonna take Jonnu Smith out and put Durham Smythe there?
Durham Smythe's not here anymore.
Or whoever. What? Pick a guy. That's crazy. Pick a guy out of that room.
Julian Hill's gonna catch one of these days, dude. He's gonna catch one of these days.
Stonehenge.
Everyone was raving about Tanner Connor at minicamp.
Can I just tell you
what?
This conversation has been absolutely exhausting for me because you just chalk it up to, Tyreek and Waddle, they're going to have better years this year.
Okay, but we would have thought this. Hold on, we would have thought this with losing Christian Wilkins last year, and Zach Sealer stepped up at a cheaper rate and was just as good as Christian
because
Wilkins.
They also got a friend.
They did, but now they're.
So they had somebody who could fill that void.
He was just as good. Like that is the game. Like you're trying to find some of these guys at the value, and paying Jonnu Smith at 30 years old, $12 million when you're already paying two receivers, like top 5 receivers. Like you're gonna have to make some decisions along your roster. It just is the game, Leroy.
I understand all of that. The argument that I'm having with you is this: you're making a lot of assumptions without really understanding why they ended up where they were and why Jonnu Smith ended up with 80 catches, right? It's a lot more than just saying Tyreek and Waddle had bad years. Like a lot of that stuff from year to year, the defenses that you play become more acclimated to what you do. And if you don't have the same amount of time or the same running game, okay, guess what? They could play that 4 deep because you couldn't run the ball worth of crap.
Yes, well, what does that have to do with Jonnu? Jonnu's not a blocking tight end.
But again, all of these reasons play into why you needed somebody like Jonnu Smith. And I'm okay with it. I understand decisions have to be made. It's football. I get that. It's a salary cap sport. Okay? But what I'm saying is this. Without that guy in the middle of the field being able to beat linebackers, You know what linebackers do when there's nobody to guard like Jonnu Smith? They get extra deep on pass routes, thus cutting into the space that you have to throw the ball in the secondary. So it all works hand in hand. While, yes, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think if you brought him back, he'd have 80 catches again. I understand that.
Then why would you pay him $12 million?
Because, all right, never mind. I'm good.
No, but why? Like,
I'm good. Good. Like, this is like a.
Seems like you boxed yourself in.
No, I'm really, and that's what you go with because you have no. All right, dude, you have no freaking idea, none of what is going on the football field. None. Yet you're gonna sit here and say I box myself in. Watch a game every now and then and see what's going on. I'm done. Go ahead.
You're lashing out for no reason.
I'm
Like,
not
I mean,
lashing out.
you are.
I'm lashing.
You don't get to pay. Hey,
out.
Leroy,
You know why I'm lashing out?
Yeah, because you don't get to pay everybody in football. That's not how it works. It's a salary cap sport.
Okay.
You got to make some decisions. That's how it works building a roster.
Okay.
You got to. I'm sorry. I'd love to pay Jonnu Smith as much money as he wants.
No,
if you could, you can't.
Okay. All I'm saying is this. The importance of what a player like him was to this team last year is not like you got it on the roster.
Then you should.
And so other parts of your field.
Complain about Chris Greer paying Jalen Waddle like a top 5 receiver. That's the mistake then.
Oh,
so you have money to pay Jonnu Smith.
Again, they paid before Jonnu got here.
That's the point, though.
Okay.
That's why they're in the predicament. Nobody on this show is disrespecting the importance of Jonnu Smith. You got to make decisions building a team. If you're going to pay, hey, guess what? You got to pay Zach Sealer a monster contract too. You want to know why? Because you got nobody else to play that position.
Okay.
Should you let him walk? What's more important? The Dolphins letting Sealer walk or Jonnu Smith? It's a pretty obvious question. Okay. So I'm not sitting here debating your football knowledge, saying you're wrong and saying Jonnu Smith is open. But I understand the Dolphins got to make some business decisions because they've made some horrible, piss-poor ones.
Okay.
That's it.
I just think that, and let me put it this way. It would be easier in today's football to replace Jalen Waddle than to replace Jonnu Smith.
Well, that's a sound point that I'm not disagreeing with.
That's the point.
But I don't. Hey, Leroy, I don't disagree with you there. Like that, but they're not getting rid of Jalen Waddle. You want to know why? Because they got. Who knows how long Tyreek's going to be here? Because you never know when he's going to go Tyreek, and then they're left with. I don't know who is left on the wide receiver room.
Westbrook. We got Westbrook.
Oh yeah, we got Westbrook Akine.
Yeah.
Whew. Anyway, we'll take a break.
I'm just saying, this is like I get why people think that it's not that big of a deal to lose Jonnu Smith, and I'm telling you, it's a little big of a deal than you're just shrugging it off to be.
I think you're mad because now Aaron Rodgers is going to throw a lot of touchdowns to him.
I mean, would that not make my point?
No, it would make your point, but now you hate Aaron Rodgers, and now Aaron Rodgers is Jonnu Smith.
Right. All right. Like, there's not a bunch of – listen, regardless of what Jonnu Smith has done before he got to Miami, there's not a lot of guys that play that position with that amount of athleticism at that position. There's not. So to go from that to Julian Hill –
and Tanner Connor.
And Let's go to break before I cuss.